You're watching and listening to the Electronic Intifada live stream. I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman here with Ali Abunimah. Joining us now live from the Gaza Strip is Zahed Rahman. He's a critical care nurse with more than 15 years of experience, and he's been working in hospital emergency departments across Gaza over the last few weeks as a volunteer with 𝐓𝐿IA, a medical solidarity organization. This is his second mission to Gaza. Zahed, welcome to the Electronic Intifada live stream. We hope you're as well as you can be under what must be extraordinarily stressful and challenging circumstances for you and your colleagues around you. What can you tell us about what you're witnessing, what you're seeing, the kinds of patients that you're treating right now?
First and foremost, thank you so much for having me. Like you said before, this is my second visit here, and stark differences that I've noticed is that last time I was here in March, there was still somewhat of a healthcare system that was functioning. Since then, there's been significant changes. The current healthcare system in Gaza has completely collapsed. We're facing severe shortages of medical supplies, equipment, and staff. The local staff remains unpaid, but they're still unwavering. They still come to the hospital, come to work every single day. I was mentioning this to someone else. They live in a red zone, they commute through a red zone, and then they come to work in a red zone. Their entire existence is in a red zone. It's a testament to their strength. In the United States, we usually use the term resilience very freely. It's not a bad phrase, right? But if you ask a local here, their response is, well, what other choice do we have? And I think that's the key point that we don't really pay attention to, is that they shouldn't have to be resilient. The types of injuries we're seeing, they're far more devastating than what I recall from last time. That only tells me from a professional perspective that the types of ammunition or types of bombs or types of artillery being used has further advanced since last year, and that's what's being used on the Palestinian population by the Israeli occupation. Before, if you were to bomb a certain area, you may have people in the immediate area that were also affected, but now you have people that show up that are 100 meters away with shrapnel injuries, which to me is mind-boggling. It defies all sorts of physics and stuff, but here we are today. We're treating those injuries because we see them. And as a result of this occupation and this apartheid, the closure of the crossings, it's had a catastrophic impact on all aspects of life in Gaza. You don't have food, you don't have medicine, you don't have anything essential coming in or coming out. They control the water, they control the electricity, they control the fuel. There's no safety for anyone. There's no safety for anyone. We're inside of a hospital. Just last week, Nasser got attacked when there were Americans there. Now, yes, the Gazans or people locally have always been under some sort of a threat. Knowing that Americans are there, they usually are somewhat careful. At this point, they didn't even care. It seems to be that the rules have changed. The perspective has changed. And the importance of international support and aid in helping to alleviate the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is so important right now. It's so important. The siege has to be lifted. The trucks that were promised to come in during the ceasefire that never showed up, they should be coming in. There's a shortage of flour. There's no flour. There needs to be a permanent solution for this conflict. I don't even like calling it a conflict, but that's what that's what mainstream media calls it. There needs to be a permanent solution for this, rather than just temporary band-aids. And something else that I've noticed this time around that wasn't as prevalent last time is the mental health the psychological trauma. You know, I don't think an average human being is supposed to endure this level of trauma, sustained trauma, for a week or so, much less 18 consistent months. You know, there has to be some sort of a change. There's someone needs to step up and say, okay, enough is enough.
Zahed, thank you again for joining us and for the work you're doing. Talk about what's it like for you there? You are surrounded by colleagues trying to help people. You went to Gaza once, you decided to go back. What made you decide to go back to Gaza?
First time I came to Gaza was because I felt like it was the right thing to do. You know, just being a human, being a nurse, I knew that my skills could be utilized. And after spending my time here last year, I quickly realized they're very self-sufficient. They're highly intelligent human beings, from a clinical perspective and everything. And to be honest, I feel like I took away a lesson in humanity, more than anything. I don't think I gave them anything except for the fact that I was able to bear witness, and because I'm an American, I have the ability to give my testimony. You know, in this, as to why I returned, it was because of my first experience. There's something significantly beautiful about this country that just draws you back in, and it's unexplainable. And every international humanitarian healthcare worker that's ever been to Gaza, that has left, that I've talked to, they say the same exact thing. I'm not even Palestinian. You know what I mean? I don't even speak Arabic, but the amount of love and the amount of compassion and the amount of respect that they give to a complete foreigner. Mind you, my taxes are paying for the destruction of this country. My tax dollars are going making the bombs that are being dropped off, that are being dropped on children. So despite that, they still welcome me with open arms, and that was a significant reason why I chose to come.
Yeah.
We're having a little bit of a connection issue, but hopefully Zahed can rejoin us.
Yeah, it's always the reality when connecting with Gaza. And I want to ask Zahed, when he comes back, he talked about a little bit about the different kinds of injuries he's seeing. And just that, you know, when he said something that struck me, when he said the rules seem to have changed, like from what rules were there before? Like,
there were no rules.
How can you?
No limits. There's no limits.
There were no limits before, and so I think we have Zahed back now. Zahed, over the few weeks you've been in Gaza so far, have you traveled to different parts of Gaza, and can you describe just the conditions or differences in conditions that you're seeing in different hospitals or different parts of Gaza?
As much as I would love to travel throughout the Strip, my travel is extremely limited to where I can and can't go, because all of my movements have to be coordinated as well. Coordinated by who? It has to go through my agency, but it has to, more importantly, has to go through the IDF. So that being said, I'm extremely limited to where I can go. Now, within walking distance, I've gone to the local shops and everything, and I've seen the devastation. And in certain areas, you can still smell the what appears to be what smells like, you know, rotting flesh, because there's probably still bodies under the rubble that have not been discovered, you know, or they may be fresh. But one beautiful thing that I've noticed is that despite everything, these people here still want to live as much as they can with the limited capabilities they have. Stores are open. Yes, the prices are astronomical and absolutely unaffordable, and everything is in limited supply. But they have this desire to live, and I think that's a right that's afforded to the people of Gaza. That's a right that's afforded to the people of the world under international law, under God's law. I think everyone has that right, and everyone should be allowed to express that right freely without any sort of suppression or any sort of occupation that's monitoring them. People need to be able to commute freely, travel freely. I'm sorry, there was just another bomb. Travel freely and work and go to school and have a life and enjoy family time. I mean, all those things they are doing it here with limited resources. It's just it's a devastating thing to see for a great community of people.
And some of those, a lot of those limited resources are things that you would normally have access to as a healthcare provider, as a medical professional working in a hospital. Can you talk about the ways in which you and your colleagues are having to improvise tools and basic medical essentials in the hospital?
So by profession, I'm a critical care nurse. I'm an ICU nurse. I have experience in the ER as well, and I will tell you some of the most important things that we do as interventionists. Right, one of the things is secure an airway. You put an endotracheal tube and secure an airway. You put them on a ventilator. You use a OG tube to decompress the stomach or to do feedings, right? All of that plastic hardware that I just mentioned, for the most part, it has to be reused. In America, if an endotracheal tube comes out of its packing and it hits the ground, God forbid it hits the ground, it hits the bed, hits the pillow, just on the side, it is no longer used. They will grab another one. Here in the United States, here in Gaza, they if it hit the ground, they'll go rinse it off and use it. Medications wise, there's an extreme shortage of medication. A typical patient that's intubated in the United States of America is on at least a sedative and it's some sort of an opioid, something for pain and something for sedation. There's a lack of both of those things. There's an extreme shortage, to the point where at points they've considered, they haven't done it yet, but they've considered diluting them in order to use them. There is no morphine. Like they use ketamine and they use propofol, and those things might be appropriate, but they're not ideal. In terms of wound care, the dressings that's necessary, the medications that's necessary, there's almost none. And a diagnostic tool that is standard to every hospital in America. One is an X-ray, one is a CAT scan machine. And I could tell you, if a patient here needs to get, I'm at Aqsa Hospital right now. If a patient here needs to get a CAT scan, they have to be put to an ambulance and shipped off to go get a CAT scan to come back for a basic study. That is not normal. Under any circumstances. It wouldn't be acceptable in America. It doesn't make sense that it's acceptable here.
Zahed, we're grateful to you for taking time from the people who desperately need your care. We don't want to take too much of it. In the last couple of minutes, talk to us about what you want people watching around the world, particularly in the United States, to take away from what you're telling us. And when you came back from your first mission to Gaza, you traveled around, you spoke to audiences. What do you want us to know, and what do you want us to do? And what do people in Gaza tell you they want from us?
Gazans are humans, just like we are. they want to live, you know, they want to have families. They want to raise children. They want to hang out with their friends. And despite what the mainstream media might about the people here, I can tell you firsthand experience-wise. A majority of the victims are innocent. The majority of the victims are absolutely innocent. You can't tell me that a 15-month-old is guilty of anything. You can't tell me a 2-year-old is guilty of anything. You know, you can't tell me that a 80-year-old woman is guilty of anything. You know, if there are you know, enemy combatants anywhere, the U.S., the Israeli forces have capabilities of doing very practical and very targeted attacks if needed, where they would minimize, absolutely minimize. Now, I know internationally everyone's saying, oh, they do the best they can. They do the best they can. That's complete nonsense. That's utter nonsense. All right. When we had bin Laden, right? The whole thing with bin Laden that happened. Now, you know, I might have my dates and times wrong, but one of the facts that I remember about the whole thing about bin Laden is that, you know, I think it was the SEALs or some specialized force within the U.S. military that went in the middle of the night and basically just took out the one house. And their neighbors didn't even know what was going on. Their neighbors didn't know what was going on. They were 50 meters away. Here, we have an entire strip of people that are paying the ultimate price, that are paying the ultimate price for the alleged actions of the few. But then you have to think, what's happening with this, right? Anytime you have, for example, we had a few martyrs today. Their family members came in devastated, some of them young children. When they see that their loved ones are now martyred, what's going to happen? If that's not going to breed more resistance fighters and more problems or more whatever, then what is it going to do? That's not going to solve anything. There has to be a better diplomatic, political solution where everyone is free, everyone is happy, and everyone gets to live freely.
It's an incredibly simple, sensible message, but one that seems to be beyond the comprehension of us so-called leaders. Zahed, we can see how deeply you feel what you're saying and what you're witnessing, and many of our viewers now are expressing their gratitude and their love for you for being in Gaza and for caring people there. Many people want to help and want to be able to do what you're doing, and you're actually doing it. And you are with 𝐐𝐿IA. I forget what 𝐐𝐿IA stands for, but it's
I don't believe it's an acronym, but it's a Canadian-based organization.
The Canadian-based organization, which our friend Dr. 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐜 is involved in. He's been on the program, and they have a website,
𝐐LIA.org.
𝐐LIA.org. So people can find out more about 𝐐LIA and how it is directly helping people in Gaza, and ways that they can help your work too and support it. And we're very grateful to you, Zahed. We hope you stay safe. We're grateful to your hands and your heart for bearing witness and helping people in Gaza. And we hope to talk to you again soon in better days.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining us,
so much,
Zahed. Thank you so much for your time.